this man, Benjamin Sesko, is high on their list. I'm told that initial talks are now taking place between Arsenal and RB Leipzig over Šeško. They're understood, or Arsenal, to be exploring the conditions of a deal because whereas before there might have been a release clause, it's our understanding it's not as simple as that now. So RB Leipzig can basically charge what they feel they want. And I think they're basing their valuation, like some other clubs do, by comparing what other strikers are going for. So they might look at the likes of Gyokeres and Alexander Isak and say, well, if they're worth that much, then Benjamin Sesko will be worth this much. And we think, according to Sky in Germany, it's around 80 million it's going to cost Arsenal. But it's clear if there's no release clause, Arsenal can go into talks as a starting point for negotiation. So they will try and bring that price down. Now, as far as Leipzig are concerned, Šeško is very relaxed about his situation there, and he's not going to rock the boat. That said, he's attracted by the prospect of a potential move to Arsenal and playing in the Champions League, which RB Leipzig won't have next season. And it's not just him that Arsenal are looking at, because we have been talking for many windows about strikers that they have been interested in. And internally, they will still discuss the likes of the man we've mentioned before in Viktor Gyokeres. But Šeško, it seems, is climbing up that list as far as Arsenal are concerned.
Carve, when we asked about Arsenal and their striker, they briefed, didn't they? And they told us, no, we're going to wait until we get the right striker. Is Benjamin Sesko for £80 million the right striker?
I don't think Arsenal would pay that much for him, and even if they did, it would be in instalments. Potentially, he could be the answer to what they're looking for. He's one of the best young strikers in Europe. He's proved himself. Arsenal have been watching him very, very closely for a long time. I think he's still 22, so he would have resale value as well, whereas Gyokeres, I think, has just turned 27. So that wouldn't necessarily be the case with him.
Couldn't they fall into the Højlund trap, though, of spending a lot of money on potential?
Good question. All I would say is, personally, last summer when we were reporting on Højlund, there was a few people here who work with us who'd been out to Italy and watched Højlund play, and they weren't that impressed with him, and they couldn't really understand why United were paying that much for him. I hadn't watched Højlund before he came to United. With Sesko, I can say personally I have seen him play. I saw him play last summer for Slovenia against England, and I wasn't that impressed, but only because he didn't do much, because Slovenia were defending for 90 minutes. He did a lot off the ball as well. But from what I've seen and what other people will have watched on clips or watching games in the Bundesliga, he looks like a fantastic young player. And he looks like a player who could really develop working under Mikel Arteta at Arsenal. And I think if I was an Arsenal fan, I would be very excited about the prospect of him becoming an Arsenal player.
I think that's what Carve says there about development. That's what Arsenal will look at as well, and any club will look at when they're going to spend big money on a player. They will see Sesko maybe as having a really high ceiling, given his age and his development so far at Leipzig. They've probably seen something, Arsenal, to think, well, yeah, his record goals-wise has been beaten by other players in the Bundesliga, admittedly, but if he was to come into this team, these are the kind of chances we'd be creating, and these are the number of goals maybe he could get at Arsenal, because they see his potential as being a lot higher than maybe some of their other targets.
Sure. And to be fair to Højlund joined a team who were having one of their worst ever seasons in the top flight, whereas Sesko would be moving, if he moves to Arsenal, would be moving to a really top class team who may be just a striker away from winning the title.
And I think the difference between Sesko and Højlund as well, Højlund, you say, was joining a struggling team, but also he was expected to lead the line for Manchester United. Sesko is going to be joining a club where there's a lot of experience in the forward areas already, and a lot of Premier League experience in the forward areas already. So if they wanted to just ease him in if they were to buy him, they'd be able to do that. I don't think United kind of had that option because there were no other strikers there.
And I still think there's a very good chance that Højlund will come good. He's a very young player. United had a terrible season. He wasn't at his best. But that doesn't mean that in the future he's not going to develop and show everybody what he's capable of.
And who knows, if Gyokeres was to join United, would he be the perfect player to come into United with experience to help Højlund along?
Arsenal are actively pursuing striking reinforcements this summer, with Sporting CP's Viktor Gyokeres and RB Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko emerging as top targets. The Gunners are reportedly prepared to trigger Gyokeres' €100 million release clause after the Swedish international's stellar season in Portugal, where he netted 43 goals across all competitions. Meanwhile, Sesko has drawn strong interest after a breakout year in the Bundesliga, with Arsenal in talks to rival several European giants for the 21-year-old Slovenian star. Leipzig are keen to keep him, but a deal around €65 million could be possible if personal terms are agreed swiftly. Mikel Arteta is eager to add firepower up front to complement Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli as Arsenal push to close the gap on Manchester City in next season's title race. Negotiations are ongoing, with more updates expected in the coming days.